know there's nothing like playoff basketball in Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
We come to you from Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the first home playoff game for the Fever since 2016. Need to win this to force a decisive game.
Alicia Gray is having a word with someone in the crowd, and now security is also involved.
Well, looks like that fan is being...
Alicia Gray from the Atlanta Dream pointed straight at an Indiana Fever fan, signaling like something serious went down, and security instantly rushed in to yank people out. But just minutes later, the whole story crumbled when the details didn't match up. The Dream scrambled, fumbling over mixed explanations, while the Fever were too busy snapping their playoff drought in front of a thunderous, electric home crowd. The split couldn't be more brutal. One team spinning a messy lie, the other spinning the scoreboard. And that's the exact recipe for a fiery Game 3 showdown you cannot miss. If you're riding with the Fever, drop it in the comments right now. I've got the Fever. Let's go. But here's the real question. What exactly did Alicia Gray think she heard from those seats? And how did it blow up into a circus that still doesn't make sense?
Clear to us, the WNBA does not appreciate fans, don't want us there. We have been thrown out of games for a multitude of ridiculous things. We have watched these players complain and trash us all. They called half of us racist. They've called all types of stuff. All types of stuff. Now, without Caitlin Clark, the viewership has been cut in half by 50%. 50% for the playoffs. For the playoffs, y'all. And they still are getting...
Almost the second she pointed at the Indiana section, the story started spiraling in a dozen different directions. On live TV, the cameras caught her turn, point, and call over security. Fans stood up looking confused as staff marched them out, before the broadcast cut away in a rush. For a second, it looked like something massive had just gone down. The accusation was bold, dramatic, and perfectly timed to make Atlanta's star look like she had been wronged right in the middle of a playoff game. That single gesture screamed, our star was disrespected, our team was attacked, and suddenly the story wasn't about the scoreboard anymore. It was about the stands. At first glance, anyone watching thought this had to be over some outrageous remark. Something explosive enough to demand fans be tossed out on the spot. The very next day, the whole thing spun out of control. Every outlet told a different story. Some painted it as nothing more than light heckling, the kind of trash talk athletes hear every single night. Others hinted it was something darker and personal, yet none of them could pin down what was actually said.
Had a fan kicked out last night against the Indiana Fever, only for the fan to speak their piece to the security. Security found out, oh, you didn't say anything at all, actually. Yeah, come back to your seat. Let me just wipe that seat off for you. Here, please, have a seat, ma'am. Alicia Gray played like absolute you-know-what last night and decided to take it out on a fan.
That wild inconsistency raised eyebrows immediately. If you're going to toss fans from a playoff game, shouldn't the reason at least be clear and consistent? Instead, all we got was a sloppy mix of half-baked explanations, and none of them lined up with what real people in the arena were saying. And this is where Alicia Gray's version started to collapse. Eyewitness accounts began trickling out and exposed the truth. One fan sitting right there swore the only words yelled were, "You're good, Lex! She's not even trying anymore!" Clearly shouted to hype up Lexi Hull, not to attack Gray. No vulgarity, no threat, nothing out of pocket, just normal sports banter.
By the way, security brought this couple back in and apologized to them. All right? They removed the couple because they do it to let the players calm down, because it's clear these players aren't professionals. Here's what you owe us. You owe us at this point. Stop it. Stop it. So, she's...
Yet somehow that harmless line snowballed into Gray throwing her arm at security, fans being dragged out, and the whole arena thrown into chaos. If that doesn't scream stretch, then what does? And here's the kicker. Those so-called problem fans who got removed, they were spotted back in their seats later in the same game. That detail alone blows up the entire narrative and proves how minor the incident really was. Let's be real. If something truly serious had been said, security doesn't give you a quick timeout before letting you stroll right back into your seat by the end of the night. The optics were brutal. It didn't look like a fan problem at all. It looked like Alicia Gray simply couldn't handle basic home court heckling while her team was getting blown off the floor. And then it exploded online. Clips of the ejection started circling. The supposed phrases Gray claimed were dissected instantly, and the post-game chatter ripped it apart.
Desperation that has to come with how you play every possession. I didn't feel like in game one we played with that desperate, mentality that we needed. Particularly when you look at 50-50 balls, when you look at how many times, we didn't get inside the 3-point line for a defensive rebound and the ball hit the floor and they were able to get it. There's got to be a desperation that you play with and a sense of urgency that you play with at all times. We didn't have that consistently for 40 minutes in game one.
Fans pointed out all the inconsistencies. Commentators admitted it made zero sense. And by Monday morning, the whole thing was being called exactly what it looked like. A flimsy distraction to cover up Atlanta's collapse. That weak narrative backfired hard. Fans weren't buying it, and instead of sympathy, all it did was highlight the Fever's resilience. Gray's move made the Dream look rattled, desperate, and completely off their game, while Indiana came out looking tougher than ever. And here's the savage twist. While Gray was busy pointing at fans, the Fever were pointing at the scoreboard. And it was historic. How did Indiana look sharper, hungrier, and more connected than Atlanta despite being so short-handed? That's what stunned everyone.
Getting this fan kicked out, and of course, the internet went ablaze. Oh my God, those Indiana Fever fans! Bah, 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 bah. Of course, after the fake hoax of early this year with Angel Reese, Angel Smollett, some people are calling her. The fake race hoax, people were saying, oh my gosh, those Indiana Fever fans. What could they have possibly said? And the rumor mill starts going, and the rumor mill starts going, and the...
Caitlin Clark had just been ruled out for the season. Sophie Cunningham wasn't available. Sydney Colson and Chloe Bibby were sidelined, and Ari McDonald couldn't suit up either. That's a massive chunk of the rotation wiped out, headlined by the superstar who brought national attention and turned ticket sales upside down. For most teams, losing that much firepower in a must-win game would have crushed the locker room. But for Indiana, it lit a fire instead. Game 3 wasn't just decisive, it was suffocating with pressure. Remember, Indiana had already let Game 1 slip away in Atlanta, which meant Game 2 inside Gainbridge wasn't optional. It was flat out do or die. Now stack that with the fact this was the first home playoff game the Fever had hosted since 2016. Back then, Tamika Catchings was still lacing them up and Stephanie White was running the plays from the bench. Nearly a decade of waiting, the postseason finally returns to Indy. And right before tip-off, they lose their biggest star. The script couldn't have been heavier. But here's the twist. Instead of folding, Indiana came out with a fire nobody saw in Game 1.
You guys are not ready for the big lights. You're not ready for the big lights. You're not ready. I could look you in your eyes and see you're not ready. Y'all can't handle people showing up to games. Y'all can't handle people actually being an interested, invested fan.
The entire building felt different. A sea of red playoff shirts filled the lower bowl, and the sound inside Gainbridge wasn't just noise. It was decades of frustration exploding into one night. This wasn't polite clapping. The crowd roared through defensive stops, went wild for hustle plays, and carried themselves like a sixth player out there for a Fever squad running on fumes. That raw energy gave them fuel they desperately needed. Even before tip-off, Coach Stephanie White was hammering the point home. There's got to be desperation in how you play, urgency at all times.
Bow, bow, bow! Let's go! Fever! Go Fever!
Let's go, Fever! Fever 3!
Let's go! Play out, baby! This is the reason! This is our season! With turnout time! Indiana Fever!
And it wasn't just coach speak. She'd openly blasted their lack of intensity in Game 1, and clearly the message stuck. From the opening quarter, Indiana gave the refs zero excuses to interfere. Their body language screamed locked in. Defensive rotations were quicker, box outs were stronger, ball movement was crisp, and most importantly, nobody stood around waiting for a savior. They made the choice as a group. If they were going to win, it had to be all of them, every possession. And then there was Caitlin, stuck on the bench but stealing the spotlight anyway. She wasn't pouting, she wasn't sulking. She was up on her feet every defensive stop, smiling, clapping, and screaming encouragement like she was the loudest fan in the building. That raw energy poured straight into her teammates. They didn't mourn losing their star, they fed off her fire and carried it straight onto the floor. And when you saw Kelsey Powers flex after a huge bucket, you knew exactly what was happening.
I did not say anything out of line whatsoever. They were let back in shortly after. When asked what happened, he said that they said it was protocol to remove the fan to allow the player to calm down. I mean, all these players ought to be playing in bozo outfits. Gray had had a bad night, and there is no excuse for the things she said or the way she acted.
Indiana had flipped what should have been a season-ending gut punch into one of the most uplifting nights in Fever history. This night wasn't about who was missing. It became all about who was willing to step up. And that resilience set the stage for the stars who did play to completely change the game. The exact moment Indiana slammed the door on Atlanta came late in the third quarter. And if you blinked, you might have thought it was just a regular sequence. But it wasn't. It started with Aaliyah Boston going to work inside, muscling her way to a post score that screamed dominance. She reminded everyone she's got the strength and the footwork to bend a possession to her will. Before Atlanta could even breathe, Shea Petty jumped a passing lane, ripped the ball away, and sent the arena into chaos. Just seconds later, with the clock bleeding out, Lexi Hull pulled up from deep and drilled a three at the buzzer. The building erupted like an earthquake, and in that one instant, the tone of the game flipped on its head. Up until that point, Atlanta was hanging around, keeping the margin within striking distance.
Backing down Jones, post moves, banks it in, bow, bow, bow. Underway, it's 2-0 Fever through the first 20 seconds.
Bree Jones, so crafty around the bucket, good footwork, little fadeaway there.
First bucket for Kelsey Mitchell, who's having a spectacular season.
Powers muscling it up, good, and one. There's the energy off the bench from Aerial Powers as she...
But that three didn't just drop. It shattered the Dream's confidence. Indiana took every ounce of momentum. The home crowd went ballistic. And by the fourth quarter, Atlanta was done. It was the kind of stretch you circle on the game film forever. Not just for the points, but for the raw energy it detonated. From that moment on, Indiana never eased up. Kelsey Mitchell went off, torching Atlanta with 19 points and bearing 4 triples that punished every single defensive gamble. When the Dream sagged to protect the paint, Mitchell made them pay from deep. When they pressed up tight, her lightning-quick first step cooked them off the dribble and left defenders chasing shadows. And don't overlook Natasha Howard. She didn't need a flashy line to prove her worth. 12 points, yes, but her defense was suffocating. She altered shots, walled off the rim, and became the glue that kept Indiana's engine steady on both ends.
Atlanta is very reactive on defense right now. They are not dictating the way that we saw them in game one. And credit to Fever for their level of aggressiveness.
Mitchell whips a pass, left block, Turner, extra, Tosh puts it in! Mitchell from the logo, pulls, top of the arc three, got it!
Then came Lexi Hull, and she was relentless. That buzzer beater wasn't her only highlight. She hounded Alicia Gray with lockdown defense, dove on the floor for loose balls, and spaced the floor perfectly to stretch Atlanta's defense thin. 9 crucial points in limited minutes, and the kind of poise you almost never see from a first-year player under playoff lights. But it was Indiana's defense as a whole that completely buried the Dream. A team used to filling up the scoreboard was held to just 60 total points. They clanked their way to under 38% from the field and a miserable 5 for 19 from deep. The Fever tightened the screws one possession at a time, contesting everything, finishing plays with hard box outs, and cutting Atlanta's free throws down to just 10 the entire night. Every role player locked in. Aerial Powers used her strength to stonewall Atlanta's wings, while Brianna Turner battled in the trenches, sealing off the paint and breaking their will possession by possession.
can close out the series in a tough situation on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a group that's confidence has really never wavered. You know, we've been in every kind of situation you can imagine, and we've been able to find ways to put ourselves in position to win, and this will be no different. Obviously, it's going to be on the opponent's home floor, but, you know, it doesn't matter. I think for us, our if we maintain our attention to detail, if we continue the defensive effort that we had tonight, and we shoot with confidence, you know, we give ourselves a chance. And
This wasn't just defense. It was a team-wide chokehold, and Atlanta never found air again. Aaliyah Boston said it best afterward. It was the hustle plays that broke Atlanta's back. Kelsey Mitchell doubled down, pointing to the electricity from the crowd after that third-quarter explosion. Their words matched what everyone watching could feel. This was a team that took every ounce of adversity and flipped it into toughness. By the final buzzer, the scoreboard screamed the truth, 77-60. Proof that Indiana wasn't just surviving without Caitlin Clark. They were thriving. But now comes the real question. Can that same grit and balance travel into enemy territory for a do-or-die Game 3? Everything rides on 40 minutes in Atlanta. The Fever just proved to the league that they can win without their superstar. But can they repeat it when the environment turns hostile? Game 3 isn't just a playoff matchup, and it's a survival test. One team moves on to face Las Vegas or Seattle. The other gets sent packing, left to replay their collapse over and over. Every possession carries weight like dynamite. And here's the twist. Atlanta just suffered one of their ugliest performances all year. Only 60 points. Barely 37.9% shooting. A disgusting 5 for 19 from deep. You better believe they're walking back into their home arena furious, desperate, and looking to wipe that humiliation clean.
Opportunity as a competitor?
I think it would be a really good challenge for us. I think, you know, obviously we want to win a game and they want to win a game. So I think somebody has to lose and somebody has to win, obviously. But I think that we take tonight for what it is and start mentally preparing, right, you know, once it hit 12 o'clock and being able to go into what's important for Thursday. And so, like I said, it's a big opportunity tonight, but you got to let it be the moment and let it kind of.
Desperation is dangerous, especially with a fired-up home crowd itching to bury Indiana in return. The Dream aren't just going to show up, they're going to come out swinging. And that means the Fever have to be ready for a storm. Faster rotations, harder fouls, more aggressive schemes. So the only question left is, can Indiana's resilience hold up when the entire season comes down to 40 minutes in Atlanta? Indiana knows the formula. Bring back that same suffocating defense or go home. The mission couldn't be clearer. Lock down Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. In Game 2, those two were suffocated into just 19 combined points, a pathetic drop-off from their Game 1 numbers. Without their stars cooking, Atlanta's offense stalled, and Indiana never let them breathe. This time, replicating that effort isn't optional. It's survival. The matchups will decide everything.
In their half-court sets so far to just take open drive to the rim. There's the three.
I don't think, and fans didn't appreciate how good Kelsey Mitchell is, and they're certainly getting an eyeful this year. Here she goes. She started by Teddy, takes it right to the basket and misses. It's a hit for Mitchell.
Kelsey Mitchell has to stay hot against a perimeter defense that's going to throw the kitchen sink at her. Aaliyah Boston faces another war in the paint, with Atlanta sure to feed their bigs more touches just to bait her into foul trouble. And don't forget about rookie Michaela Timpson. Her 9-point spark in Game 2 wasn't just luck. If she shows that same fearless poise again under the lights, it could tilt the entire balance. But the biggest X factor isn't even talent. It's energy. With Clark, Cunningham, and others sidelined, Indiana has zero room to pace themselves. Can this shorthanded squad push full throttle for 40 minutes in the most hostile building they've seen all year? That's the gamble. The wild cards are all on deck. Lexi Hull's clutch shooting, Natasha Howard's two-way grind, Ariel Powers throwing her body around on defense. Any of those three could flip Game 3 on its head. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about sneaking one more win. It's about ripping off the rebuilding label and stepping into the arena as a real contender. And no matter how this ends, history's already written. Alicia Gray's embarrassing crowd moment, that'll fade quick.
Boston going to work, scores off the backboard. 8 seconds left in the third. Fever by a dozen. Dallas steal in the backcourt. Mitchell in the corner, guarded by Gray. 4 seconds to go. Boston to Hull, left wing, fires a three. Good! Hull hits! with .3 to go in the third. Woo! Atlanta inbounds. That's it for the period. And the Fever are fired up 59-44.
What won't fade is the story of Indiana turning one of the most setback-filled seasons in franchise history into their first playoff win in almost a decade. That's the legacy the Fever just carved out. And the fight isn't finished yet. Game 3 isn't just another playoff matchup. It's the kind of night that defines entire franchises. For Indiana, it's a chance to prove they're no longer just the underdog story, no longer just the team of the future. They're fighting to be recognized right now as a team that belongs with the league's elite. And for Atlanta, it's pure desperation. Their season has been dangling by a thread since that Game 2 humiliation, and they know it. Lose this one, and they're not just out of the playoffs. They're branded as the team that choked against a Fever squad missing its superstar. The stakes couldn't be heavier. One side gets to move on and chase a finals dream. The other, they pack up, answer hard questions, and face an off-season filled with regret.
Count of the situation. The guy in the black hat yelled to Lexi, who was running to guard Gray, and said, quote, "You're good, Lex. She's not even trying anymore." Gray lost her shit and said some very nasty words to the guy and the people next to him. Because he said she's not even trying anymore. She can't handle that kind of heckling. Are you kidding me? Quit sport.
That's the razor's edge this deciding game will be played on. For the Fever, it all comes down to whether that same heart, that same relentless defense, can travel on the road. Boston has to dominate the paint without blinking. Mitchell has to be the flamethrower again, ready to bury shots the moment Atlanta leaves her a sliver of space. And the role players? They have to bring every ounce of grit, because in a game like this, it's the little plays that decide legacies. And let's not forget the psychological war. Atlanta's crowd will come alive, desperate to rattle Indiana. But the Fever have been hardened by adversity all year long. They've been underestimated, written off, and even disrespected in their own league. Now they walk into Atlanta with one mission: silence the noise and shock the world again.
See her go downhill, be more aggressive offensively. This is a great matchup. Boston against Jones.
Just a fun matchup between two big posts with size, with good anything.
Boston up, under, and in.
This isn't just basketball anymore. This is survival, pride, and a shot at rewriting the future of the franchise. Game 3 is where everything collides. Hunger, history, and heartbreak. The only question is, who walks out standing when the dust settles? The Fever have already shown the league they can take punches, lose stars, and still look like a legit playoff threat. Now just imagine what this same squad will look like in 2026. Caitlin Clark back healthy, Aaliyah Boston still a force inside, Kelsey Mitchell raining threes, Lexi Hull flying all over the court, and a deeper bench built for war. That's not just a team. That's a nightmare for the rest of the WNBA. But right now, all eyes are on Game 3. This isn't just a decider. It's Indiana's chance to punch their ticket to round 2, to carve out history, and to prove once again that the scoreboard never lies. If you're riding with the Fever, drop it in the comments. I've got the Fever. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one. And then, the Fever have already proved they can take hit after hit, lose key players, and still look like a playoff threat nobody wants to face.
That was a masterclass on the defensive end of the court. Hell yeah, ladies. Hell yeah. It really was. It really was. I mean, I'm so proud of you. Stepped up to the challenge, back against the wall, and our back is against the wall every fucking game. Come on. But y'all, look, I'm proud of you. We ain't finished though, right? We ain't finished. KK, way to be ready. Yeah. The second half, your aggressiveness, it was a difference maker. And what it opens up with the gravity that you create is huge for us. You gotta stay aggressive.
Now picture what this same group will look like in 2026. Caitlin Clark back healthy, Aaliyah Boston still dominating inside, Kelsey Mitchell lighting it up, Lexi Hull hustling on every possession, and a deeper bench stacked with confidence. That's not just a good team. That's the foundation of a dynasty. But before the future comes, everything is on the line in Game 3. This isn't just a playoff decider. It's a chance to shock the league again, punch a ticket to round 2, and prove one simple fact: the scoreboard never lies. So if you've got the fever, drop it in the comments right now. I've got the fever. Don't forget to hit like, smash subscribe, share this video with every Fever fan you know, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. We'll see you in the next one.